So in this video, I'll explain how the payment page works. If you are working with the payment page, it means you have transactions where customer maybe make part payments, then after some times they want to clear up the balances. So I have a sample company here that I'm going to be using. So if say this customer is buying food, then he's buying say yam, spag, and then he's buying drinks also. Let's say he buys 5 Alive and Fanta. So the total bill here is 1,900. That is the total bill. So at the point of payment, all I need to do is select this pay, which is the shortcut is F9. Then I can specify what the or input what the customer paid at the point of purchase. So either the customer is paying out of this 1,900, maybe the customer is paying let's say 900. So which means the balance would be 1,000. So you enter that here. You don't need to select it, click anything. Once this page comes up, just input the total amount paid. Then you click pay later, or you select pay later. So once you select this, it requires account receivable account. So you can, this GL account is what you set up for the first and the last time. Like you don't have to set this up every time you bring up this payment page. All you just need to do is set it up once and for all. So I'll do that now. This is under the GL account. When you select this, you select the cash account, you select this, you select the receivable account. Then you can try the transaction again. So I'll click pay. Then my 900 is already selected, then I click pay later. So once you do this, your invoice is going to be printed. Then you can see how the transaction has gone. Whatever the customer is owing, it will show under your payment page. So here now we have this customer. The name of this customer is select customer, which means we didn't even impute the customer name. Select customer is the general name that the software assigns to working customers, the ones that they don't have any record with you. So if say for instance I now want to add a record, then I can say maybe Mr. Tunde. Then Mr. Tunde is buying what? Mr. Tunde is buying drinks, 5 Alive, Coke, and Fanta. Then food. Mr. Tunde is also buying beans and rice. So then after this, then I can click on the pay button. So once this page comes up, you don't need to do any other thing than to just enter the amount the customer is paying. And if the customer is not paying anything, you can put 0 here. So it means the customer is owing the whole transaction, for the whole transaction like 2,400. So then I can click pay later. So once you do this, your invoice would have been printed. Then you see all the details of what the customer is owing and what the customer paid and all that. So you can see that when I go to the payment page here now, the customer total paid is 0, total payable is 2,400, then the balance is 2,400 as well, and this is the invoice number. So if tomorrow this customer comes around and say, okay, I want to make some payments let's try to sell something else for Mr. Tunde. If I go back to the payment page, to the sales page, and Mr. Tunde comes again and say he needs Coke, Eba, and Egusi, this time around is the total payable is 1,000. All I need to do is go to the pay, then say, okay, how much are you paying this time around? Mr. Tunde is paying 200 out of the 2,000, out of the 1,000. Then I can click pay later. So now, the total Mr. Tunde is owing now. Oh, we made mistake. We didn't select Mr. Tunde. This is under general customer, which is the select customer. So if I double click on this now, that transaction went to this because we did not select the client. So that is very, very important. When you are posting your transaction, try to know who you are posting it to. The general customer is always selected for you. So if someone is making a transaction and the customer is going to hold you, the best bet is to select the customer's name. So Mr. Tunde now, 5 alive beans and this. So total payable is 1,400 and Mr. Tunde is paying 400 out of this transaction. So we can say pay later, then we go to our payment page, which is this. Then we can see that Mr. Tunde's transaction has increased to 3,400. If I double click on Mr. Tunde's transaction now, then you can see that Mr. Tunde, this is the breakdown of that 3,400. One transaction, it was owing 2,400. Then the other transaction, it was owing 1,000, because he bought 1,400 and there's balance of 1,000. So if he decides to pay 500 out of this invoice, once I click on it, it selects the on this part. You can see Mr. Tunde customer name, you can see the balance, the current balance, the total payable, the payment ID, the invoice number. You can see all this breakdown. So if I select these two, you can see that this one, Mr. Tunde 2, then 2,400, the current balance, on this particular invoice. Though when you select customer here, it gives you the summary of everything, of all your customers. So here now we can see that the total amount Mr. Tunde is owing is 3,400. So that gives me like a kind of summary. Then when I double click on it, this customer is on check. So it's telling you now that you are on Mr. Tunde's account. So Mr. Tunde's account now, this is the breakdown of all Mr. Tunde is owing so far. So if I had one more transaction to Mr. Tunde's account now, let's say I select Mr. Tunde, then Mr. Tunde is buying 5 alive, this, and this is 1,900, and Mr. Tunde is paying, let's say 900 again, and his balance will be 1,000. So if I go to the payment page now, you can see that Mr. Tunde is now owing 4,400. And if I double click on this Mr. Tunde, it now gives me the breakdown of Mr. Tunde's transaction. So I have on this invoice, I have 600. I have 1,000 on this one. I have 1,000 on this one. I have 2,400, and that makes up 4,400 as total Mr. Tunde is owing. So if I decide to pay all of this invoice, this particular invoice number, once I select it, it's selected there, and I can say pay now. So once I select pay now, record posted, so it shows that Mr. Tunde has paid one of his invoices, and what Mr. Tunde is owing now is 3,400. So once that invoice is paid, it goes out of this Mr. Tunde's account, so you don't get to see it again, except you select show past transactions. So if I click on show past transaction now, all that Mr. Tunde has been owing and he has paid so far now comes up, because this invoice now is 0 balance, and these are the only ones that is owing presently. So if I uncheck this now, you can see that this is what Mr. Tunde is owing presently, and I can decide to pay part payment inside a particular invoice. So if I click on this now, it's selected. You can see 2,400, then this is the invoice ID and all that, which correlates with this, so that you know the particular invoice that you selected. Then now I can come here and say, okay, out of this particular invoice, I'm paying just 400 naira, and I say pay now, record posted. So now Mr. Tunde's balance is 3,000, and if I double click on this particular invoice, it now shows me the breakdown of this invoice. Now I have invoice number 3 at the initial payment, 2,400 was the amount owing on this invoice. No money was paid at the point of sales. Then this is the previous balance, this is the current balance. So here now we have on the second part, when he paid 400, the total he paid was 400, the previous balance was 2,400, and the current balance is 2,000. So presently now, this is what Mr. Tunde is owing on this invoice. So, and if I try to pay more, okay, Mr. Tunde came again, I say economy is bad, he's paying just 500 out of this invoice. Then I can say pay now. So Mr. Tunde is owing 1,500 naira on this invoice, and total Mr. Tunde is owing altogether is 2,500. So, and if I double click on it, I can see the breakdown as well. So that's how the payment works. And if I decide Mr. Tunde comes again and say I'm buying another thing and I don't want to pay now, I'll just go here and say, okay, how much are you paying us now? I'm not paying anything. I'll put 0 here, then I'll say pay later. So the invoice will print out for you, and you could see all the breakdown. Let me see if I can add a particular and a software printer, so that we can see what it looks like when it comes out. So I'm making another transaction for Mr. Tunde. So I'll come here and say Mr. Tunde. Then I'll select the things he's purchasing. Then I'll put the amount he's paying. Let's say he's paying 400. Then I'll say pay later. So it's configuring our printer for the first time, so that we can see what the breakdown of the transaction looks like in the printout. So now I'm using a software printer. If you are using an hardware printer, this will just come up. But Mr. Tunde, this is a software printer. So Mr. Tunde receipt. Mr. Tunde's receipt. I'm saving this to the desktop so that we can see it. So if I go to my desktop now, this is Mr. Tunde's receipt. So when I double click on this now, I want to see what it looks like. Okay. Then you can see that this is Mr. Tunde's receipt. So Knox Fast Food, Mr. Tunde is the customer name. The amount he purchased this time around, this is it. The subtotal is 900. The total of the invoice, as the invoice value is 900. Then the total he paid as at that point is 500. The current balance is 500, and the total balance is 500. So that's for this particular invoice number. So it shows on the invoice too what Mr. Tunde is owing, what he paid, and all that. So, and that will be all for this video. Thank you for watching.